So now let's put what we know about linear association. Okay, come on.
Come on.
Let's put what we know into action. I've got some scatter plots, and I want to describe the association. When I describe association, what am I saying?
Whatever you're saying.
Positive, negative, or
not association.
Or no association,
Or
and linear or nonlinear.
Yeah.
So let's look at this first one here. Reading level versus height. It's saying the taller you are, the higher your reading level. Does that make sense? Well, think about it.
Obviously, my reading level is
When you were in 3rd grade,
Yes.
your reading level is lower. Now that you're in 8th grade, your reading level is.
higher.
It's
Doesn't mean
Same.
I grew.
Mine doesn't
It's
improve.
still an equation, right? Ellen, you might be this one down here.
Yeah, that's me.
If you're feeling like.
I haven't grown in like.
So, what kind of association is this? Is it roughly a line?
Yeah.
What's this guy right here?
He's an outlier.
This guy's an outlier.
He's out of there.
Now, outliers are good. Identify them and then we ignore them. But we don't drop them from our data. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Unless you're a person trying to prove some kind of weird point, then you start dropping things and say, that's an outlier until the data looks good for you. People do that all the time. So here is roughly a positive linear association. Positive linear association.
Why? So big.
Why is it so long?
Huh?
Why is it so long?
Let's just
We have
do
to write association.
PLA.
Please.
Yeah. PLA.
PLA.
No. All right, let's look at this one. What kind of association do you see? Well, let's identify this dude.
There's a lot of outliers.
Dude.
That dude is definitely an outlier.
Outlier.
Outlier. This is the distance people jumped in the different years.
He jumped really
The
high.
dude in
That boy
whatever
can
year that
jump.
was.
Yeah, he's definitely an outlier, though. 1968, he smashed everybody.
Now 2016.
Wham!
2016 they didn't do anything.
And he smashed everyone from that point. I mean, nobody ever caught up to him.
That's
So-
the dude.
Now, identifying the outlier and kind of ignoring it,
It's kind of
It's kind of like.
is it a positive, negative, or no?
It's kind of no.
If you say it's positive, somebody tell me why.
because it's going up.
But you have like.
Because you have
Okay, it does start rising, but what happens here?
It goes
Draw.
back down, so it's not one.
Is it a negative?
It's a negative.
Well, it did rise.
It's
So
a
it's
no
not?
association.
It's no association.
Dang.
Could you make an argument for the either of the others?
Yes, sure.
yeah.
And it's nonlinear. You could, but I will tell you the harder somebody argues, the more obvious they're wrong.
Really?
True.
If you think about it.
They're only arguing for one
Never
point.
worked
They're
The
wrong.
argument I always win.
More or less.
So, this one,
Because I provided.
if you think about it, this data doesn't really give you any inference. Is the training program necessarily better?
Yeah.
And it could be right here they changed coaches.
Yeah, if they did, then maybe.
And then the new coach stunk at it. So you got the few people who were left in the old thing, and then it drained down to nobody could jump at all.
Wow, fire the coach.
So let's look at this one. This one is the price versus the buyers. The higher the price, the fewer the buyers. Why is that?
Because
Because it's more expensive and it's retarded.
So, do we have any outliers?
No, we don't.
Is it a linear type association?
Yeah.
No.
No.
It kind of goes this way, doesn't it?
I mean, kind of.
No.
It doesn't have to be a perfect line,
So it's linear.
but is it always going down?
Yeah.
Can you-
Because
So it is a negative. Linear association.
Why can't we use abbreviations?
When it's a non-association, it spells non. Because no, this one. Never mind.
So let's look at this one over here. It's the calls per targeted account and the sales.
That's
No,
definitely.
that's a no.
Is there really an equation there? You could kind of argue for a positive linear, couldn't you?
No.
No.
But you'd have to really be forcing it, wouldn't you?
You would just give it a lot of dots.
But again, that's forcing data. So really, I would say this is no association
No association.
and nonlinear. Now again, you could argue that as a positive association, you could draw a line, and I have for
right.
college classes.
Looks like a guy before.
Oh, it does.
We were doing this the other day, and I was showing somebody, and this is what it looks like.
No, Bullison. No,
Looks
you're
like a
wrong.
fish.
It looks
No.
like a person.
Yeah.
Bullison has a better one.
It looks like a fish.
I see a person.
No, look at
Yeah, I
mine.
see
Look,
a person
look.
with a
Show
better
me
one.
mine.
No, no, I know. Okay, so but generally, and that's not advisable in a college class to connect the dots on your test just to prove you can.
Check it out.
So let's make a graph and see if we can make predictions.
Uh-huh.
So here we've got a prediction about the relationship between the number of hours spent studying and test grades. So 0 hours studying, what's the average test grade?
75.
So at 0 hours, the grade is 75. We put a dot there, right?
My average seems a little bit higher than that.
0.5, so half an hour, the grade was
80.
an 80. 1 hour, the grade was an 80. 1 hour, the grade was 85. Is this a function?
No.
Why?
Because it has to do on the same. Yeah.
Yeah, because 1 hour spent studying does not always give you the same grade. 1.5 hours studying, they got an 85. 1.5 hours studying, they got a 95. And everyone hated that person. 2 hours studying, they got a 90. 3 hours studying, that person got 100. And 4 hours studying, that person got a 90.
I don't know who
But that's not-
it's for.
Well, let's talk about that person.
Distracted in like 3 seconds.
What do we call this dot out here?
Outlier.
Does it look like an outlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of outside the norm. I'm guessing that's the student who didn't watch any lesson at all and only spent 4 hours the night before studying and hoped.
That's
I
me.
didn't. I don't spend.
But
Now,
you've been
look
working on
at,
it, so
once we identify the outlier, what happens to the rest of these?
they go up.
What kind of association is it?
Linear.
Okay, but is it positive?
Positive. No.
Does it rise to the right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it?
It's a positive.
It's a positive linear.
Equation.
We didn't have equation. Association. That's for Monday.
Yeah.
Monday we'll be drawing trend lines.
Oh,
I guess I'm not doing that. I
So
won't be here Monday.
now, think about what this says. What does this graph tell you? What does this graph tell you,
The more you
Wesley?
study, the better grade you get.
The more you study, thank you, Wesley.
I mean, look at that guy.
No,
who
not
was on 4
really.
hours.
Yep. But what do we call that guy?
Outlier.
Okay.
You say for an hour and a half you got a 90,
But
and
still,
then
he
you say
still,
for 4
he
hours
still
you got a
studied for
90.
4 hours.
So basically
So
you said
technically, he studied more than everyone
said
else.
what?
But
90's pretty good though.
Oh, Mr. Wheeler, I saw what you did.
okay. So roughly a positive. Any question on how to identify associations? Positive rises. As X rises, Y rises. Stop talking to each other. A negative association, as X rises, Y decreases.
Check that out.
As
Like the temperature versus the sales of snowboards.
okay.
The colder the temperature, the higher the sales.
Wait, no, because the colder the temperature, the more you use
Don't
your-
argue.
Or your,
Don't argue.
but it's the
Don't
same
argue.
thing.
No association means there's not really. If I went out here and found out how many chocolate bars everyone ate a month. Well, some of you have more money and can afford chocolate bars. Some of you have almost no money
About one every day.
shh, and can't afford chocolate bars. Some of you, like me, are thieves and steal other people's chocolate bars. I did eat Santa last night because he was still sitting on the counter. And it was somebody else's, but I ate it. So
Can I make? No,
it is not really a good indicator of much at all, right?
I mean, it means you got money.
If we looked at candy cane sales compared to the month of the year? Would we get some kind of correlation?
Yes.
What kind of association would we see?
You get more December
As it got near December, the sales would go up, right?
and January.
All right.
Mr. Will, can I make this for supper?
No. Any questions?